Hey guys, John here. So this week is going to be a lot of fun. I have this really old Casio keyboard with some very cheesy sounds on there. And I was like, why not bring some of those sounds inside to Pigments and see what happens? So these are a little bit different, right? It's not the exact same, obviously, but they're pretty close and they're still pretty cheesy. So with that being said, let's get started. Let's switch over here to Bitwig. And the first one is going to be a mystical triangle. And we have the mod wheel, which adds some vibrato. Now, I did kind of think of making this one monophonic, but it's kind of fun to play polyphonic. Especially if you're doing something like this. Whatever that melody actually is. So with that being said, let's dive into it and get started. I have a fresh copy over here, and just in case, let's go to the new preset here. So this patch is actually pretty simple. There's not too much going on. So if we turn off our effects first of all, and then turn off the utility engine because we're doing some of our sub stuff, which we're going to get to in just a bit here. So we have our analog engine right over here. And really what's actually going on, we have one waveform coming out, a little bit unison, and some FM going on. So with that being said, let's get started here. So let's go from wavetable over to analog. So for this first waveform, generally you might think it might start with a sine wave. And if we actually go to the right channel, you might think, okay, it might be kind of cool to start with a sine wave, but we do want a little bit of extra harmonics in there, so a triangle wave might be a little bit better in that sense. So we can kind of start with something like that. And these levels are just about even. We're going to boost things up in just a little bit here. So we have a triangle wave, and we're going up 1 octave, so let's bring this up by 1 octave, that is. There we go. And this is going to be the basis of this whole sound here. Now, we are doing a little bit of FM, if you can see right over here. So with this third oscillator, we're going all the way to the right on 36, and it's a sine wave. So click the sine wave, go all the way to the right on 36. And then if you see here, we're doing the FM amount at 0.036, so we can bring this up at 0.036, something like that. So we're going to get that weird little one here. We can turn off the second oscillator because we don't really need it. So it's still kind of like a triangle, but it sounds a little bit different. So next up, we do have a little bit of unison here. We have 2 voices, so let's bring this up here. And it spreads that out through the stereo field. It's a little too wide, so on the stereo, we kind of brought this down by 64.8. Which is pretty close, that's fine, 65. Just so it's not too left-right. Now, if you look over on this guy, we see this fine is moving, and we have this pink circle right over here, which we're going to get into. So basically, this is going to be LFO1, and if we look at LFO1 right over here, let's actually drag and drop the first one. So LFO1, let's drag and drop this to the fine, and we're actually modulating this by 0.15, so let's bring this down quite substantially, 0.15, something kind of like that. And this is actually going way too slow, and it just sounds weird. So this first LFO is going to be at 6.70. So let's bring this up, 6.70, something kind of like that. Now, this is also going to be on poly for the retrigger source because I kind of want it to start at the same spawn. We're going to fade into it. I mean, you could put on free running. It's not going to be that different, but whatever. So we're going to leave this on poly keyboard. Now for this knob here, we're going to fade this in because this is going to be our vibrato, this LFO kind of moving this here. And if it just starts, it's cool. It might be a little bit too cheesy, but it is kind of nice to fade these in a little bit. So if we click fade, and we're doing, 368 milliseconds, so we can bring this up, 368. Where are you? There you go. And we can even see here on the modulation how it slowly fades in a little bit. Now, the cool part is we're going to be sidechaining this to the mod wheel. So if we click on this here, we can see that we have this selected, the mod wheel, and it's going to be at 1. So that basically means if our mod wheel is all the way down, then we're not going to have any vibrato. If our mod wheel is all the way up, then we're going to have full vibrato. So with that being said, let's go to our modulation, and then here where it says sidechain, let's click this guy, and then in this list, let's find mod wheel, which is here on the left-hand side, and then by default, it's going to be 0.50, so let's just click and drag that all the way to 1. So with that being said, if we exit this menu here and bring our mod wheel all the way down, we don't really see this moving. We can even look up here on the fine knob. And then once we bring up our mod wheel, then we have our vibrato. And anywhere in between, really. So let's leave this up for now. Okay, so next thing, if we're looking at the main patch here, if we go to our keyboard tab, we're doing some of that like cheesy portamento kind of stuff. So if we look at this guy, this is going to be 62, which it's a small amount, but it does make a difference. So let's go to our keyboard, and then let's go to, is it 62? Yeah, 62. Bring this guy up something kind of like that, or 65, that's fine. A little glide in kind of really helps sell the illusion there. Okay, so this, for the most part, is going to be done, right? We can kind of look on the filter and see what's happening here. So the next one, if we go to our filter, we are using the SEM. So let's go to the SEM or the SEM, depending on how you want to say it. So if we look at some of our modulations, we have two things. We have an envelope, and then we have a macro. So we're going to get to the macros a little bit later. But keep in mind, right here, this is at 1017, so we can bring this down to about 1017 or something like that, or 76. What is this here exactly? That's fine. Pretty close to it. I mean, I almost passed it. There we go. Okay, so now we're at the exact value, 1017. So this is going to be modulated by envelope 2 at 0.25. So envelope 2, drag and drop this here, and 0.25 is the default, so we don't have to adjust any depth there. But let's take a look at envelope 2. So this guy is a little bit different, right? So our attack is going to be 322 for envelope 2. So 322, kind of bring this up a little bit like that. There we go, 322. The decay is 500, which I believe is default. And then our sustain here is going to be all the way up. So let's bring our sustain up. And then our release, if we take a look at this guy, is going to be 679. So 679, something like that. Now, we don't really notice this because our amp is still pretty close for the release. So if we look at our amp envelope, it's going to be 43.6, and we can bring this up to 43. It's a small little fade in. Just kind of nice there. So then the release here, do we already do this? No, we need to do the release, 413. So bring this up 413, something like that. So we're pretty much there for the most part. That's kind of the core sound. Now, some of the difference here is this curve here on the second envelope. I kind of like it curving just a little bit. So the attack curve is going to be negative at 6.40. So just a little bit like that, small little move. Okay, so now since we're here in the filter, let's do these first two macros. So with this first one is going to be the cutoff, right? We drag and drop this, and this is going to be 0.19. So we can drag and drop this and bring this down to 0.19, something like that. And then also label this as cut off, something like that. And then also we want to do the resonance, and we can bring this all the way up to. So depending on how like bright or dark we want this sound. There we go, we have that control. And for the resonance, it's going to be down all the way, which is fine. And then macro 2 is going to be 0.58. So drag and drop this to the resonance at 0.58. There we go. And then re-label this as res. All right, so it's already pretty cheesy. Okay, cool. So I guess we can do the utility engine might as well since we're already here. So generally I like doing these using the utility engine as a sub-oscillator most of the time on macro 3 because it's kind of nice. You get a little bit of extra girth in there, right? A little low end is something that we can always we always need a little bit of girth sometimes. Okay, so with that being said, this is going to be a triangle wave, which I kind of rarely don't do. It's usually a sine wave, but for this one, it's we're doing the triangle thing, so might as well just stick with the theme. So if you look at this, it's already going to be by default down an octave, so you don't have to change that. This is going to be a direct out, which we do have to change. So bring this to direct out, bring the volume all the way down, and then drag and drop macro 3 onto this guy. And then our depth is going to be 0.35. So bring this up to 0.35. So just a little bit there like that. So once we bring this in here, there's a little bit of low end, and we're going to bring this up also in the effect. So don't worry if it's not too loud at the moment. Okay, so that's going to be sub. Now, we don't need to use the engine 2 analog at all, so it's just these two engines. We did our filters, that's cool. But now we need to do the second one, which is called the surgeon. So This filter comes out of, or the signal comes out of filter 1 and then goes inside filter 2. So with that being said, let's turn this on and let's go down to surgeon, and we're going to be on a high pass, and the amount is going to be at 108 hertz. So let's bring this down. Because it's a lead, we really don't need anything below that. Cool. Okay, so with that being said, let's go to our effects and let's take a look and see what's going on here. Let's turn these on, and really not too much, right? So we have a reverb, we have a delay, compressor, and an EQ, which I guess in signal flow, we should go EQ, compressor, delay, and reverb. So if we load up an EQ here, let's remove this delay and go for the reverb. Now, basically, this is I'm kind of just taking out some of that lows and bringing up some of the highs, so we can go scan for what we don't want, and the exact value for this guy is going to be 264. That's pretty close there, 264 or 66, something like that. And just going to bring it down a little bit. And then for the high shelf, if we look at this guy, this one is going to be 2,391. So 2,300-ish, that's kind of fine. And then bring up the gain just a little bit. Something like that. And then next up, we have a compressor. So let's switch out this reverb for a compressor. Now, this guy, the ratio is not too crazy, like 4 or 5 to 1, something like that. And then just a little bit of gain reduction. Try no more than 5, right? Try to stay under that. Okay, so for then this guy, we have a little bit of output gain, and this is going to be at 4.88, so we were pushing the level just a little bit. All right, so now we kind of get into the delays and reverb, kind of make this thing a little bit more spatial or spatial, depending on how you say that word. Anyway, so delay here. So this guy, our timing is going to be 1/4, which is going to be default. That's pretty fine. Now, we do want to bring down the feedback 0.141. That's pretty close, 0.140. Now, our main amount is going to be 23, so we need to bring this down to about 23, or bring it up to 23. And then we're doing some EQ here and also increasing the stereo spread, something like that, and then kind of bring this down so it kind of cuts those highs from the delays. And just some lows just in case. Jesus Christ. Okay, so anyway, going down to the reverb, we have about 0.36 here in the wet, so we can add a reverb here. So 0.36, where are you, my reverb? There you are. 0.36, something like that, so it's going to be 36. Now for this guy, we're reducing this decay a little bit here. So exactly what, 0.260, so 0.260, something like that. And then the size is going to be 139, so it increases to 139 or 140. That's fine. Now we need to add our effects here. So double click this guy and then FX. And then now we're basically just doing the delay and the reverb because the EQ and the compression can stay. So the delay is 23. So bring this down, drag and drop this to 0.23. So that's done. And then our reverb is going to be 36. Bring that down, drag and drop, and then 0.36. And you can bring that up like that. And I think one thing I did as well, let me just double check here. Yes, so we're doing a little bit of keyboard modulation on the voice panning. So this is kind of cool where depending on the note that you play in your keyboard, the more low that note is, it's going to be more in the left side, and the higher it is, it's going to be in the right side. So this is a small amount. We're doing it 2.25, so the default. So what we need to do is go to our synth page and then grab the keyboard and then drag and drop this to the voice pan, and this is going to be 25. So higher notes are more on the right side. Lower notes, more on the left. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a wider stereo field once you're starting to play this. And that was one of the reasons I didn't want to keep it monophonic. So now we mapped all the stuff on our effects. Now we do need to turn our effects on. So if this one is down, make sure to bring that back up. So now we have all those lush effects. Yeah, so that one's kind of fun to play. It basically cuts through any mix that you have, especially once you go up to the higher registers. So yeah, that's how you make this one, the Mystic Triangle. It's really kind of simple to make, but hey, it's kind of cheesy, it's kind of fun, and it kind of works with a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you want this patch, there's a link in the video description below, and it can be yours, and we'll see you in the next video.